The Tudors Dynasty Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Rebecca Larson, and today I have a very special guest on hand. Look, it's Dr. Emma. Emma, welcome back.
Hi, happy birthday. How are you?
Oh, thank you. You know what? In honor of my birthday today, I decided to bring out my tiara.
Oh,
Ex-
Rebecca.
Except with my headphones on, I can't
Your
wear it.
Highness, your Highness.
I'm planning to wear this later today when I get together with friends so that they can treat me like royalty.
You deserve it. You're royalty. And in honor of your birthday, I changed my glass for the people who can't see it. It says happy birthday
Yes,
on
thank
my
you.
glass today.
Thank you.
It's always just water, okay, people? Don't think it's something else.
Like vodka or gin.
Yeah.
It's
No, I'm only kidding.
it's 10:30 in the morning here on October 8th, if anybody is wondering.
In Minnesota, it's a rough life, so don't judge me, people.
I'm representing Minnesota with my Minnesota sweatshirt today.
Well, we're not gonna lie, it's been pretty fantastic in Minnesota for the last month. The weather's just given us the best time ever. So very slow transition into the fall. Beautiful, long, sunny days. Pretty ideal, isn't it?
Not really long anymore. I mean, the sun is setting before 7 o'clock now, right?
Yeah, but it's still so pretty during the day. You just have to get time to get out there and just enjoy it. It could be raining or it could be, I don't know, it's pretty nice.
That's true. And in true upper Midwest fashion, our weather is quite erratic too, because one day it could be 60 degrees and the next day it'll be 80. So
don't you love that? All your clothes are out there now. Like
right.
My room is just like a jungle. It's like raincoat, summer dress, they can go together today because you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Some days you can wear shorts, other days you have to wear sweatpants.
Shorts with the raincoat. Exactly. I think I've worn that in the past week.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think last weekend I went golfing and I was wearing shorts and a sweatshirt. So
there you go.
You never know.
Welcome to the Midwest.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
We'll have to get our snow pants out tomorrow.
No, I refuse. It's October 8th. I am not getting my snow pants.
I'm going to remind you, because Minnesotans tend to forget about weather casualties, that it snowed the day before Halloween, and it was so cold on Halloween. The kids were like, we love this party, but it's too cold. And I was like, how cruel is that? I didn't like that at all.
That's
Not
Minnesota. Yeah. Wearing your Halloween costume over a winter coat is very Minnesota.
Yep. Well, I'm going to do it. I'm a witch that wears a very thick coat.
I don't think we're doing Minnesota any favors for tourism right now.
No, it's amazing. If you've never experienced Halloween, I mean, I know it's a national holiday. It's not just in Minnesota, but like in any other place in the States, people take it very seriously here. I like it. You have to like just drive around to see that some people just have a lot of stuff they put out. They decorate. It's a pretty big deal and it's fun.
It's my favorite. It's always been one of my favorites. I love dressing up, except as an adult, I've never been around other people who love to dress up for Halloween as much as I do. So I feel like I've been neglecting my inner child for the last 20 years. Like I need to dress up for Halloween this year.
No, you don't need an excuse to dress up in Halloween. You just do it.
Just by myself.
Just walk up those doors and knock on those doors and be like, trick or treat, see what happens.
Right. Yeah, exactly. My daughter's grown too, so it's not like I can take her trick or treating like I used to.
Well, or you can, I don't know, there's other things to do on Halloween. I just like it. I think, well, I have a young kid, so I guess for me it's different. I have to dress up. I can't just go in my regular. I wanted to go as a tired mother one year, and no, I wasn't allowed.
Oh.
Because I was like, then I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
Hey, here's me. I'm going as myself this year.
Yes, this year. It's pretty spooky how tired I am.
Well, I don't even know what we're going to talk about today, and that might sound odd to anybody who's listening right now because Emma and I usually have at least an idea of what we're going to record about. And
I feel so relaxed right now. It's incredible.
Like, do people just want to listen to me and you chatting?
Yeah, probably. Well, I think that'd be better than me just spitting out tons of facts. It's like mind-goggling, right? So
Yeah.
maybe it's just better to have a nice laid-back conversation once in a while.
It's been a while since you've been on the show. I say a while, it's been a couple weeks, really. It feels like forever.
Well, why don't we change it up a bit this time, and I can ask you a few questions, maybe. What do you
Oh,
think?
okay. All right. I guess we'll see.
So I
What?
was thinking a bit because it's your birthday, and in your birthday you get to do your favorite things. So I was
Okay.
thinking you could tell us a bit about your favorite things, about what got you into this and why the Tudors, and what are your favorite things about the Tudors that you over the years you're still like, yep, this is my favorite thing.
Oh, wow. Well, I think that when it comes to the Tudors, my favorite thing has been all the drama, right? It's like, I know I've said this 100 times before, but it's like watching a soap opera because you
Oh,
just,
I love this
you,
answer. It's so good.
you never know what's around the next corner. Like there is just so
Oh
much
yeah.
drama and intrigue, but it's
Yeah.
real life. These were real people. It's not a story written by screenwriters. It's like,
No.
you can't make
It's a
up.
story written by historians, but well.
Well, yeah, that's true. Okay, good point. Good point there. But it's just, it's,
But it's mostly been written by male historians. So now it's
yeah.
changing again. So I get what you're saying. They're still relevant because we're still asking questions. New generations of historians are historians because they're fascinating, right?
Yeah, yeah. And
The
there's
drama, I
just
would agree, the drama drew me to the Tudors too.
how could it not? How honestly, and of course, the first person I was drawn to was the Gateway Queen, like everybody else, Anne Boleyn. I think
Mm-hmm.
she brings so many people into the Tudors.
Mm-hmm.
But from there, I think I just
It's funny
wanted to,
because she wasn't even a Tudor, right?
right,
It's
yeah, yeah. But it was her
But I guess she
story.
is the mother of the most iconic of the Tudors, really, the one that's become most. I mean, when I have a few of these books for my kid, for Susan, that are children's books about women, famous women, and Elizabeth the First is always up there,
Yeah,
so featured. So I mean, people who like Elizabeth the First, of course, they're going to ask questions about the mom, and then you find about all the tea during the time, let's say her parents met. That how can you not be fascinated by it, right?
yeah, yeah. Anne Boleyn's story is just so captivating. And,
Yeah.
even though it's not one that I focus on anymore, I do appreciate that she brings new people
Yeah.
to this community every single day. So I think that's great. But I think there are also so many of us who want to look at other figures from history who
Mm-hmm.
are overlooked, whose story haven't been told, like Thomas Seymour, obviously. His story is one that I've always felt like has been overlooked. It's
Mm-hmm.
been improperly told for centuries, and it's time for the truth to come out about him. And there are so many other figures from Tudor history who I feel like their story is finally coming out.
Interesting. So one can argue that because there has been these gigantic figures like Elizabeth the First and Henry VIII, and even Anne Boleyn, if you consider it like that, the figures have to be sort of the bad guys, really, or the enemies, or the frenemies, even, right?
Yeah.
Just to quote one of our episodes there. See how I did that? That
Yeah,
was
yeah.
good. That was good. That was very good.
If you
I'm
if
just
you
kidding.
say she's like, that was very good. That was very good.
Pat, Pat. But no, but yes, this is true. And then that's the interesting thing. You draw people to it, and then you get people interested. And of course, people who get interested and want to work on it like you do or I do, just need to find new questions to ask, really, and look at it from a different perspective. So bring in new evidence, and that's how it works. And more drama gets
Yeah.
thrown in the bucket. I love it. It's never ending. This is never gonna end.
No, I think I love, when it comes to my research on Thomas Seymour, the part that I love about it is like all the questions you come upon, right? As you're doing the research. At the beginning, you have questions that you want answered, and that's how you start your research process. But then as you go along, you uncover different sources or primary records where you go, huh, well, that's interesting. I wonder why it said this, or I wonder how he was associated with this person. And then it sends you on like this wild goose chase, learning about something you probably never thought you would learn about. And that's what I love.
You've done that too? Oh,
think we've all done that.
Yeah, we've all done that. We've all
Yeah,
been there.
it's
Doesn't happen to me from 6 to 7 every afternoon. I just
just
allow myself to do it, but I swear I had like limit my time that I could just go in rabbit holes because yeah,
how do you do that? I
I
realize
time
like
myself. I'm like,
oh my
okay,
God.
this is when as soon as I know it's a rabbit hole, I give myself an hour.
I don't honestly. I'm in a rabbit hole and 45 minutes later I go, Becky, what are you doing? This
No,
isn't even what you were here for. And then I go, oh well.
well, if I were to do that, I would never get anything done because I would just punish myself for. No, it's normal. You're like even when you're writing for other things, or even when you're editing something, or even when you're finding a note to edit a note or whatever, you're constantly feeding your knowledge about the topic. And I mean, as the years go by, if you're good at it, you also have to like take that time to like really, if it's a good idea to pursue it, because well, that's what keeps it alive too, right? Doesn't it? And keeps you wanting to know more is that you can do that. It's not just editing, which is not my favorite thing. I know I've said it like 5 times now. I think I'm experiencing some sort of trauma right now.
Well, when you have deadlines and editing is what you have to do, I'm sure that makes it a little bit more stressful and less fun.
Yeah, no, for all types of things, editing and depends on one's strengths, right? In my case, I don't think anybody's well, some people are very good at editing. I'm not gonna say because there's editors. But yeah, it's not like my favorite thing. Or for example, I don't know, other things that I have to do, admin work and things like that. But
Yeah.
I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah. You
We
know,
all like the fun part of reading. I love reading. Reading is um I think I like more reading than I like writing because unless I read a lot, I don't find my writing is very good, or I
sure.
my writing gets disconnected to I don't know. So I have to read a lot,
No,
or I
that
keep telling myself to find an excuse for all my reading. I guess. What about you? Do you do that too? Do you read a lot so you can kind of feed your creative writing side?
Well, when I'm in my writing mode, yes, because you're right, it's so important. I don't know what it is about reading and writing and how they're connected. Just how, I don't know, maybe it's inspirational or maybe it is
Yeah.
that connection to the knowledge and it's so immediate.
Hmm.
But
Both.
recent,
It's a bit of everything. It's a bit of yeah.
yeah,
And it
recent,
helps you get your juices, your creative juices flowing.
yeah. But
Yeah.
recently I decided to open up my draft again for Thomas Seymour and look into
Good.
that. And I decided that it's time to look through it, refresh my memory a little bit, and make sure I know what's going on in my story. So I'm going back through again. And it's funny, like it's been like a year since I've looked through it, and things are starting to come back. My research is starting to but I feel like
Excellent.
it's after you step away from it so long, you forget things. And I look at him like, oh yeah, I forgot that I figured that out. I forgot that I knew this. I forgot that. And then now I can like add the,
Rediscovering your own discoveries over and over. Oh, I've been there, girl.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's been a lot of fun doing that.
Good. Good. That's good. We get so caught up in daily life and all the things we need to do for all the deadlines we have and things we're into and things we participate in. And,
Yeah.
we lose focus sometimes. But for me, especially, the writing process is a lot of, I need an extensive period of time where I can just be calm on my own. Otherwise, it doesn't
Yeah.
work very well for me.
Yeah.
So those are not that those happen sometimes and sometimes they don't happen.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Exactly.
but still, and then all the other things we have in life too. We
Yeah.
have lives, people.
We
Believe it
do.
or not, I
Yes.
think. I used to have a life. I didn't. I need to check in my diary if I have a life still. It says no. It says no. Not anymore.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
What else? Aside from all the research and all that, what else is like new for this project that you lead here in the Tudor Dynasty podcast
Oh,
and so on? Tell us. Come on.
What's new, huh? Well, I think I'm just constantly looking for new subjects to interview people about, trying to find new guests. I had been doing some lectures, hosting some lectures as
I've
well.
seen those.
We just launched the Dr. Peter Staffel one on Mary the First,
Oh, that's gonna be
and
amazing.
Thursday we do the live Q&A, but by the time this airs, that will all be over. So but other than that, it's just trying to keep things fresh, getting back to doing some writing. I've been writing, trying to do some more blogs lately. So I recently put up a blog about the
Oh, that's so much
Seymours.
work.
Yeah, but sometimes that's how I get back into it. Like,
Right, right,
I
right.
started out with the
Yeah.
blogs, and so now it feels good to get back into that and just write these shorter pieces to get me back into my writing again.
Well, the thing is, since you are a one-woman orchestra show, it's very difficult. You have to do many things. You're pretty much doing everything in the back end, and then it's just incredible how you can manage everything, still find time to write and to
I
write
don't.
books.
I don't find time for anything. I feel like I'm scattered most days. Like if people think I have my stuff together, I really don't. I try really hard to get done everything that I want to accomplish. And there are days where it's just really hard to find the focus on what is it that I really want to get done today.
Right,
Am I going to work today on editing an episode that I did? Am I going to work today on figuring out future episodes and getting those
right.
scheduled, or am I going to work just on social media posts today, or am I going to do
Mhm.
writing today? It's hard to find the focus to do all the things that you want to do, but I'm getting there slowly but surely.
I am sure that anyone who has a podcast and a website that's listening to this will relate to you. That sounds just like a regular old job to me, and the worries of a job, you know,
Yeah.
with the addition to the worrying of, being self-employed, which is also like something, that is also an additional my dad was a translator when I was growing up. So I know what like self-employment is like, in the
Yeah.
household. But still pretty sounds like pretty much like you've got it under control, Rebecca, I
Yeah.
think.
Well, I'm
What
trying.
about your birthday? What are your birthday plans?
Oh, well, I don't have many big plans. I'm just going out with friends later to like one of those simulated golf places outside. So
Really into
it'll be,
golf these days, aren't you?
yeah, I do like golfing. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. So
Yeah, we've been going we went golfing, well, at least to the driving range once, right?
yeah,
Yeah, I used to golf a lot when I was younger, I'm gonna say.
you're
Um,
silly.
when I was a teenager, I used to golf a ton actually. And it's always good to go back. So I think,
Yeah.
yeah, that'll be fun to do a little bit more of that, right?
Yeah. Okay, so enough about me and my boring job. Let's
Yeah. Well, it's your birthday, so
Yes, and we talked about golf. Obviously I like to go golfing. Golfing is fun.
me too. I like
The,
to golf. I like to golf.
the weather
We
is
sound
nice.
like two, like, I'm sorry to say this, but old ladies.
You know what?
Jeez.
So last week, how's this sound for old lady? Last week I was in this golf tournament. Okay. So it was me and my friend, and then this guy that we know from a golf course that we go to all the time, and his uncle.
Hmm.
And his uncle is 84 years old. Okay.
Oh,
And
youngster.
yeah, he's just a youngster. And I'm like, barely know these two people, but it's me and my friend. And I was like, well, we'll have a good day. It'll be fun. It's golfing. The weather was beautiful. The sun was
Yeah.
shining,
Oh, I
whatever.
wish I was there. I would have been there.
Well, I was having a terrible golf outing. It was one of those days where you like get in your
Oh,
head and you
yeah.
just cannot fix it. And I just felt like no matter what I did, I just could not correct it. And the 84-year-old, I had said to him, this is the first time that I've been out golfing, really, where I've got to tee off with somebody in the same tee box. Usually I go
Right,
golfing with men, and so they tee off at a different tee box than I do
right, right, right.
because women can't hit as far, obviously.
Hmm.
So he said to me, he goes, look it's the oldest and the youngest teeing off together. And then I had to go, well, technically I'm not the youngest here. My friend here is the youngest. But that was like my happy moment for the day where I was like, he thought I was younger.
Oh, what did your friend think though?
Oh, he didn't care. He's got like gray in his beard, so of course he looks
Oh,
older
I
than me.
see, I
But
see.
yeah.
Ooh, that 84-year-old. Was he like kind of flirting with you,
Yeah,
Rebecca, maybe?
maybe. And then when I teed off and I did horribly, he came over to me and he put his hand on my shoulder
Did the
and
84-year-old tee off further than you did? He did?
my drives were terrible. So when he put his hand on my shoulder and he said,
Wow.
Becky, would it be okay if I give you a piece of advice? And I said, yes, please. Like at this point, I was so frustrated. I think we were already 5 holes in and I was just shanking them all to the right. And I was just so frustrated. And he said to me, you need to keep your shoulders square. You're dropping your shoulders. And I went, oh. And I had this moment. Anybody who's golfed, and I'm sorry if this is boring, everybody who's listening
Golf
to
could
this right
never be
now, but
boring. How could you say that about
we're
golf?
not talking about the tutors. But anyway, I had that moment where this was my first season golfing. All right. I started, I don't know, really early when the season opened up here. And I, I've been trying to figure this out the entire season. Different people are giving me advice saying, this is what you should do. This is what you should do. Nothing was
Right.
correcting this,
Including me. Including me.
including you, until this,
She
this
never
eight,
took it. She was still doing it wrong, even though I told her several times, guys.
this
And
84
she
year
kept
old.
looking at me like, I didn't know what I was saying, but I was pretty good, Rebecca. I told you.
You know what? When I golf with my brother, my younger brother, he's like, you're doing this wrong. This is what you need to do. So then I do what he tells me to. And then on the
Brothers, don't
next,
listen to your brother.
I
That's
get
my only advice in life. Don't listen to your
the
brother.
next hole, he would be like, no, don't do that. Do this. And I said, on the last
Right.
hole, you just told me to do that. And so then I end
Exactly.
up
He's
like,
trying to confuse you so he'll always beat you. Don't listen to
yes.
your brothers.
Well, the 84-year-old taught me. The next time I went golfing with my brother, he was amazed at how straight my drives were. He said,
There you go.
what happened? And I was like, this 84-year-old guy told me about my shoulders. And then I realized what I was doing.
The Christmas miracle.
Yeah. So that was like my big thing for the week where I got to figure out finally in October what I was doing wrong golfing.
Well, do you know that in Tudor times they did something like golfing similar? And you know why I know this?
Tell me.
There's a manuscript painted by Simon Benning, Levine Eternlich's father, that depicts people playing a similar game to golf, and it's called the golf hours. And because golf started in the UK, like tennis and other
Oh,
sports. I mean, you didn't know
interesting.
that?
I didn't know
Yes,
that.
yes, yes. So yes, golf was a sport that started in the United Kingdom.
I mean, I guess that
So
doesn't surprise me. It seems like a very English, British thing.
I mean, you know why there's 18 holes in a round of golf?
No, I have no idea. Uh-oh.
Because there's 18 uh there's 18 drinks in a pint of beer.
No way. Okay.
Fact check it. Fact check it.
So now I was 47 years old when I found that out.
Well, it's true. So you can check that.
And I
No,
just
yeah,
announced,
yeah,
and everybody now knows how old I am.
yeah. Well, and no, yes, and golf is, and tennis was very, very popular. Henry VIII played tennis, and he had,
18. I'm sorry. I
yes,
can't.
you can't get over it.
No, I'm gonna have to like throw out this little ball of knowledge tonight.
You thought that I only knew things about Catherine of Aragon, and
I
you were
sh
very wrong. I
don't
know
know.
things about everything. You know, I didn't get the nickname Know-It-All in school for no reason.
I know it all.
Sorry.
That's really interesting. I did not realize that today I was going to learn that
About
interesting
golf.
fact. Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to
Well,
sound so smart tonight when I'm with my friends. I'm going to be like,
yeah.
you know what I know.
Right, 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 right. And tennis, yes, and for example, whenever Henry VIII would redo his palaces, they would always include new things like tennis courts because there were things that they were developing because one of the things about being a Renaissance princess also was being fit and being, athletic. And we talked about his fight with Francis in
Yeah.
France. He went
Yeah.
all the way to France to have a fight with the King of France. Oh, I never get tired of that anecdote.
It doesn't surprise me though. Really.
Can you imagine the humiliation when Francis put him down? Oh,
That's
it must
probably
have.
like the best part of Henry VIII's story is the humiliation that day.
Imagine recovering from that, you know? Imagine Francis for the rest of his life, too. Ugh.
Do you think here's an odd question I'm just going to ask you. Do you think Henry VIII was better looking than Francis the First? I mean, it's hard to say, right? Because all we have is portraits and paintings,
Right.
but Francis the First, really, I don't see it at all.
I mean, from what I have gathered, Henry VIII was very handsome, but also looked a bit, and they described him as feminine looking.
Oh.
So one of the ambassadors said he would be a pretty woman. So I think that's why he grew a beard too, to probably look more masculine.
He must have looked like his
Uh,
mother, huh?
I don't think Francis needed that because he had very hard features, like a very big nose and things like that. Um, Definitely, I think Henry was probably better looking, but I think they were both Renaissance princes, and the what we find attractive at that time is what they found attractive is different. It's a set of virtues, right? They were powerful, they were princes, so that made them more attractive than anyone to start with. Even if you
Yeah.
had, if you were, had a patch in your eye, you were still the prince. And
Right.
that, and then you received an education, you had a taste and you had a way of doing things and a power over people, a persuasion power that nobody else had, obviously. So they're competing in that sense, the king of France and England, let's say in the historical rivalry that probably I'm sorry to break it to England, but France maybe was a bit more powerful for some time, and especially Francis the First was very powerful. To be honest, he was a pretty powerful monarch. He did a lot of damage to the Spanish monarchy in Italy to Charles V, but then after he humiliated Henry VIII and you're talking about the field of cloth gold, right? We were
Yeah.
talking about that. We jump 5 years later, and he's captured in a battle and taken in Spain by the troops of Charles V. So only because his sister negotiates his release, he doesn't, end up. I don't know what could have happened to Francis the First. Charles V could have done whatever he wanted, really, to him.
Here we
He
go.
was very lucky. He was very lucky.
Girl power.
Um, Imagine Francis. Yeah, and I talked about this before. Just the second he was in Spain, he was like, "This is not my favorite place of all. I never thought I would find myself here."
I
To be
can't
honest,
imagine it's not your favorite place. You're a hostage.
and that's when his sister sends miniature portraits of him and her nephews to Henry VIII, breaking protocol because they were usually sent to the Queen. But she wasn't going to send those to Catherine Aragon, was she?
No, makes
No, because
sense.
Catherine would have been like, "Oh yeah, these are going in this cupboard that I never opened, that is sealed." And
Whoops, this
so
fell into the fireplace.
oops, oops, the Dauphin is burning.
Whoopsies.
Oopsies. Yes,
How
yes.
how would you say that in Spanish? Do you have a Spanish equivalent?
Oops, I guess.
I don't know why I thought maybe there
Uy,
was.
uy, uy,
There we
uy,
go.
al fuego. Uy, no, uy, qué tonta soy, madre mía.
See, now I just pictured
Something
cat.
like that would have been something like that, something like that.
Uy!
Oh, if she spoke French and when she received messages from France, they were probably in French. She would have been like, "Oh la la, oh, oh, quel dommage, quel dommage." I mean, she must have had so much fun.
I
Not the day that they received miniatures of because she knew what was going on after Charles had married her her niece,
yeah, yeah.
So she was like, "Oh, Mary, what? Imagine that if Francis the First would have married Mary Tudor, and she would have had to go to England to endure what Eleanor of Austria endured when she married Francis finally, because Henry VIII didn't want to give away Mary because honestly, it was the only person he really had. even though he was saying she wasn't legitimate, he didn't get rid of her and send her to France, you know? He
Yeah.
still knew she kind of needed to stay around to see what was going on, to see if he could have a son. And then once he had a son and all the drama, the big drama was over, let's say that way, he relaxed a lot with Mary. And you know, I'm studying a lot that part, Lady Mary, when Mary Tudor comes back as Lady Mary in the final part of the reign of Henry VIII, which is very interesting, her relationship with Catherine Parr, and how really sometimes we don't realize that what is Henry VIII going to do in the last year of his life, really? Is he that active? Is he that much taking those decisions? Is he seems to me like there's a partnership between these two women to Lavina Turlick arrives in this time and things like that. So that's what I'm also studying now. It's a bit of overlap with you, Rebecca, in your time. It's fascinating to kind of like broaden your expertise in I say into the future, which is a very long time ago, but to me it's the future now.
Yeah.
Because, you know, for a long time I studied until Catherine Aragon died and all that, but then now I'm obviously going beyond, and it's still fascinating.
Yeah. I love like the year starting in about 1546, right? Because then we're coming to the end of Henry VIII's life. Like
Mm,
from 1546 to March of 1549, that's my favorite time. Because to me, that's when we start to see
yeah.
Thomas Seymour a little bit more. Or at
Right.
least for me, that's
Right,
kind
right,
of
right,
when
right.
things where his story starts to come to the forefront, especially after Henry VIII's death. It's interesting always to see how
Right.
everything played out after Henry VIII died.
Right. And I think I've told you about this before, but I think about it every time you speak of this time. It's for years and years, I studied Henry VIII's postmodern inventory. So I have been studying that time. Uh, Not the time, but a record of what Henry left. And with that, trying to do a reconstruction backwards of what Catherine could have brought into the picture, all the things that are connected to her, the Spanish monarchy. But really, once you start, you get to a point where you know that collection very well, and you start to look around. There's also all the elements now that I find, looking for evidence of other wives, looking for evidence of mentions to similar, for example, artworks that we find now in the Prado Museum that I studied too. So this inventory of the goods of Henry VIII, the Whitehall inventory of 1542 that was edited by Maria Hayward, and then the postmodern that was edited by David Starkey. Those are, if anyone wants to study the Tudors and material culture, those are like you could study those forever and
Yeah.
have topics forever. And that's where I spend a lot of my
I
time.
think I've told you I do own the book, the Whitehall Inventory.
Oh, yes,
And
yes.
as somebody who is not an art historian or a trained historian like you are, it's daunting to look through those and try to understand
Hmm.
exactly what it is that you're looking at. You know, it's printed out for you, so it's not like you
Yeah,
have to understand paleography to read it, but
right.
it's really understanding as someone who doesn't necessarily understand inventories
Hmm,
and
hmm.
how they're laid out. I think for me it was a little overwhelming. So when I first got the book, I went through it and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And they list, you know, these tapestries or stuff like that that were in these different places. But for me, it was like, okay, but now I have to figure out a way to tie this into a story that I'm trying to tell. In order for it to be extra interesting to me, it has to be related to something that I'm doing too. And of course, I didn't find any connections to Thomas Seymour in
Right.
the inventory.
Well, there's a few mentions to Jane Seymour, and definitely you could. I mean, the inventory of Henry VIII, the Whitehall, at least you know it's the Palace of Whitehall, so it's what he had there.
Yeah.
So that first you need to reflect a little bit on what the source is why the intention of that source, right? So it's just basically saying what there is around. So I think what an art historian is trained to do is to identify groupings of those artworks or artifacts that are in a palace that would be displayed together that kind of give a message, because if you are displaying portraits of Isabel of Castile with a portrait of Charles V, those were not painted at the same time. Why are they displayed in Whitehall in 1542 when Catherine of Aragon is already dead? Why are they still displayed there? Because they're important. Because, for example, Lady Mary is come back and she's commissioning portraits of herself. Henry still wants to be attached to that past with Spain when all the drama with Anne Boleyn is over, really. And if we think about it, in many ways and respects, someone like Catherine Parr models herself after Catherine of Aragon. There's a big distance religiously. Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
But in terms of the way, really, we have to think Catherine was also a reformist. She was a humanist. She was someone who wanted to reform the Catholic faith, like Erasmus of Rotterdam was doing. So Catherine Parr, who was named after Catherine of Aragon, by the way, who received miniature portraits of Catherine of Aragon and Henry VIII from her mother, was a continuator of what Catherine of Aragon had started. It's just in her conscience, in her mind, it had to be through reform, right? But that doesn't mean that she, I think the memory of Catherine of Aragon started to be brought back with Jane, first with Jane Seymour, but then with Catherine Parr too, and with Mary, really. And obviously it's abandoned after a little bit when in the reign of Elizabeth and subsequently, but not really in the Catholic world, where those two figures remain to be iconic figures. I would say Mary the First and Catherine of Aragon are very representative of what happens to the Catholic faith in the 16th century in Europe, in Northern Europe.
I think this is interesting because I recently recorded with Bonnie, who is the owner of the Catherine Parr Society. Mm-hmm. And we talked about Catherine Parr, and I told her how Catherine Parr used to be my favorite for the time being until I started talking to you, and now Catherine of Aragon is my favorite. But
why did you say that to her? Oh, I want her to like me. Come on.
No, she's convinced that she's going to turn me back. But now that you show that connection between the two women again, I think that's good to see that might have something to do with the reason why I like both of them.
Exactly. There's no need to honestly, the competition, it can never exist because
right.
they're not living at the same time. And I'm saying this clearly because Catherine of Aragon has an advantage. She comes before, she sets precedents, and that's it. I'm sorry, it's just the way it works. But that doesn't mean that what the other women achieve or the things they do that are very innovative. Like, for example, someone like Anne Boleyn, who is really someone who doesn't have a position like Catherine of Aragon's in court or in her background, finds a voice, in court. Or Catherine Parr, that encourages, not only she translates and writes works herself, but encourages Mary Tudor to write in Latin, to translate too, something that Catherine of Aragon had taught her to do. So Catherine had been Mary's personal teacher from the time she was born up until she went to Ludlow. It was personally Catherine who taught her Latin. So this is just a continuation of that. When Catherine Parr is encouraging Elizabeth I, future Elizabeth I, and future Mary I, to work on those things, it's because Catherine of Aragon changed that. Because when Catherine is still in Spain and Margaret of Austria is sent, for example, to Spain, the Queen of England and Margaret Beaufort send a request for Catherine to learn French because they say the ladies don't speak Latin in the court. They say Spanish, but they also include Latin. This is what Catherine changes. Think about the daughters of Thomas More. Think about Mary Tudor, who is a polyglot, is someone. How many queens of England in the medieval times spoke 5 or 6 languages like Mary Tudor did? Right. That's what she gets bad press. I know she gets bad press, Mary Tudor, but Mary the First, but she is the Renaissance queen of England, the first woman to take power, to speak to ambassadors in their own tongue, when they came. Think about that, to marry someone who would become the most powerful man, to try to defend. It's very difficult to defend your case when you're a woman in power in the 16th century. So she's trying to emulate her grandparents, her Spanish grandparents, who had a successful partnership. That's what she wants to build with Philip. She doesn't have time, so in the great scheme of things, historiography is viewed it as a negative thing. They would have had 15 years, maybe things would be worse, or maybe they would have had a great reign.
Yeah.
Who knows, you know? I think they would have done pretty okay, especially if they would have had children. If they would have had children and boys, I assure you, they would have been golden. That's what they needed to do in those times. It wasn't that difficult. It was that difficult, but it wasn't really that difficult. If they had those, usually those marriages that had lots of children were successful.
You know, Dr. Stifel talks about how Mary the First was pregnant, and how, I don't remember if he said she had a miscarriage or gave birth early, or what it was, and how she had to do her best to keep that under wraps and make it sound like it was just a phantom pregnancy, because how would it look to everyone that she's unable to give the country an heir? And
Exactly.
I think that's so sad.
That's what her mother had to do too.
Yeah.
She tells Fernando, her father, when she loses her first baby, a girl, she doesn't write to her father right away. And when she does, she says, well, I had to be sure that this was going to be okay, because it's really bad luck in England. And this is something that they're very superstitious about. And there could be consequences for this. I mean, there's a whole ceremony. The women, and the royal women especially, it's a very complex, very ceremony to have a baby in the royal court. So just for that to be what people like to call a failure, when your baby is born dead, because Catherine Aragon's babies were usually born alive, or stillborn, or lived in. So something happened, and probably it was during birth or something like that, because the babies came to term. That's what I'm saying, right? That how painful that is too, right? Those 9 months of hope, and then just ruined in another time where you can die. We know the first time she almost died. Catherine Aragon almost died because one of her ladies, who was tending to her, when Catherine was about to die from this, she said, if you don't die, I will go to Spain and profess as a nun. So Catherine said, I will give you one of my headpieces if that happens, so you can take it to St. Peter. And she recovers, and she gives her that headpiece. And the lady in waiting becomes a nun after her father snatches the jewel from her and wants to use it in her marriage. And yeah, and Catherine writes to Ferdinand saying, hey, Dad, you know what? You know, this dude needs to be punished, because so finally she can profess as a nun. She becomes a nun there. I can't blame the woman. Imagine after watching someone almost die, you know, you're like, you know what? I think I want to be a nun.
Right.
I think I heard my calling. Yeah. Yep.
You know,
I think I would have been a nun in the 16th century.
Hearing you talk about this, like it's such a reminder about how terrible it was to be a woman during this time. And
Mary was 37 when these no, it's not the same as have a miscarriage when you're 23, you're 24, and your husband is, then when you are 37, you're the queen regnant. And what if you die during your pregnancy? What if you die during childbirth? What if, and there's a foreign king here that you say we have to call king, but he's not here, but he's taking our money, and we just lost Calais. And this, imagine the stress levels for Mary. I also think, I am not a medical specialist. I can't know what happened to Mary Tudor, but I think that her marital relations triggered something in her, and she had, like Peter says, the ambassadors described that she had a miscarriage. So, I mean, why are we talking about phantom pregnancies if it wasn't certified by a gynecologist, or
Right.
that's just she believed she was pregnant. There was things said about it's probably true. She died shortly after she had like two quick pregnancies, so it's very probable that she just had some sort of problem inside. Or these babies, they were cousins, they were closely related, so there could have been an incompatibility between both of them too
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
triggering this. Her mother had also those problems too. Henry VIII had problems with his other wives, so Mary was Henry VIII's daughter too. Do you know what I'm saying? It's very complicated.
How
But the
appropriate.
phantom pregnancy, it's a way to judge a woman and call her insane. It's the same thing that they used with her aunt, Juana of Castile. And we have to stop doing this. Women are not insane when they say they have, pain or have had a miscarriage when they die of something related to their uterus, like Mary Tudor died from. Okay. We have to
Yeah.
start believing women when they have things like this. No phantom pregnancies, please. That's very bad. Let's not talk about that anymore.
I was just
Ugh.
because it seems so appropriate, but yet weird that we're talking about this on my birthday.
You started talking about Mary Tudor.
Well, did I?
Well, you know why it's so intriguing? Because she's pregnant, and that's at the time that Antonis Moll paints her in that portrait that's in the Prado. So she's pregnant there. Isn't
Okay.
that
All right. I'm changing the subject now.
okay?
So this whole time you're talking about all this stuff and women and fathers, I had this like, I don't know, something came into my head real quick and I was like, if you this is what my brain works this way. You're talking and I'm thinking about other things.
It's time to change the subject. Let me think about something else. She keeps talking about Mary Tudor. That's how it goes, right? Okay.
In my head, I was like, if I had to choose from one figure in Tudor history to be my father, who
Hmm.
would I choose? And I
Your father?
immediately,
That's a
yeah,
weird
like
question.
if you were living during that time, who would you want your father to be? And I immediately knew the answer.
You did?
Yeah, I immediately knew who I would have wanted my father to be.
Oh,
Thomas More.
I guess so.
I mean, he seemed to be like, I don't know. I mean, he was all about
Seems like
educate.
very strict household for me.
He just seemed like he was all about educating his
He
daughter,
was.
right? So I think to me, that's appealing to me. And you don't like, I guess maybe I don't know enough about him to know how he treated.
He seems like a lot of teaching you at 5 a.m. though. To
Well,
a lot of fasting in that household, a lot of very, very, very Catholic, very strict. But yes, I think he probably was a person who out of I mean, we still have to think this is the 16th century. Everybody thought that men were in charge and should be in charge and
yeah,
all those things.
yeah,
It's just that the humanist movement had been so powerful that and really at the base of that is something quite simple, which is women have the capacity to be educated, so they should be to become the best companions to men, because their humanism is also, it's Catholic too, so it's like you have to have the best companion as a wife. You
yeah,
can't
yeah,
just. So I think that yes, I think that he loved a lot his family, and he was a family man for sure. And he just, it must have been really hard for his family too to go through that. He was in the tower for a whole year.
yeah. But
Imagine living your life, in court and things like in places like that. When your dad is in the tower, well, you're not really at court anymore because you're kind of like, it's kind of the problem is it's kind of a thing for the whole family. It's not just something. So imagine the angst for him of thinking, well, is my family next?
right,
And the effort that he spent educating his daughters, it does teach us that yes, these people thought that educating women had advantages, because otherwise he wouldn't have spent that time, effort resources. And these women end up in a very international network because Thomas More is international. Thomas More is in contact with Erasmus of Rotterdam and all those people, and his daughters end up in correspondence with Mary of Hungary, Catherine of Aragon's niece, and they start exchanging things like portraits and things like that. You have to think that this is what this humanist network allows too. It's an international network. It's an international movement. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's an international movement of intellectuals within the Catholic faith that just have all these very interesting interactions. And the daughters of Thomas More keep that alive. So that would be very interesting to study in relation to Mary Tudor and her, because Mary Tudor is always related to the Habsburgs, even when she's like passed away or whatever. Henry still knows she is. And all the imperial ambassadors everywhere call her the Princess of England. They don't call her anything other than princess the whole time. So the support that she receives, I'm talking about Mary Tudor again, sorry, that she receives from her family abroad, that's what I wanted to conclude with, is really important for her to be able to succeed finally later on. And the daughters of Thomas More, they should be studied more in relation to their activities in court and how they defend or stand by Mary Tudor or not, because I really honestly have snippets about it, but don't know to a very big extent. So if anybody's looking for a very interesting research project about women, right?
There we go. Wow, I just opened a door I didn't know I opened.
There you go.
Well,
And
now
somebody's going to pick it up because it's a very cool project, very cool topic.
now I want to know, who would you pick as your Tudor era father?
I don't know any of them. I was trying to think as I was like, who, this guy? Nope. I don't want to have a father.
Like,
No.
would you, Thomas Howard, the third Duke of Norfolk? Nope. How
No,
about,
but you did say Thomas More, and I want Thomas More too.
yeah.
No, I don't know.
What about fun guy, Sir Henry Guilford?
You know, you're right. It could be Sir Henry Guilford's daughter. Yes. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Yes. His daughter born in Spain.
Right.
On his time in Spain, right?
Yeah.
Daughter from Burgos. He was knighted by Fernando of Aragon.
Yeah.
And then I come to the Tudor court and like help him with the rebels and meet Hans Holbein and Susanna Horenboot and all these guys. Yes. Okay. Yes. So fun guy.
So
Yeah.
Thomas More for
I'll
me.
take over the family business, fun guy, if you need me to. Oh, can you imagine that? Be in charge of all the parties. And then you can bring the carnival, all the fun things we do in Spain.
I'm pretty sure you would end up in prison.
with what's his name? With Beto Torrellano.
Yeah.
End up having a fight with Torrellano in the kitchens in Hampton Court, throwing something at him. It's like because we would have a fight over food because he would say Italian food is better, and I would be like, ha, you wish. Right? And that would start a fight, an international fight.
Yeah.
That would be scary.
Crisis.
For him, it would be scary for him. No, that would be fun. That would be fun. Imagine that. How many people from everywhere were really there? We always see it as very English, but really, there were times where it was very, very international, especially when all these Italian artists arrive and all these ambassadors are there too. I always like the ambassadors. They're some of my favorite people.
Okay, you know what?
They go and find out the foreign tea, and then they come home and they have months of tea to spill everywhere. I'm sure everybody invited them home for dinner and be like, hey, tell me what's going on in England. Oh, darling, take a seat. You know? Don't you think that's what they used to do?
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe. I have another question for you. This
Okay.
is a fun one I used to do on old episodes of the show that people have brought up that they wish I would do it again. But this might be an odd one, but I think you'll have an answer. Let's say you were to get married again. Okay. I like your husband, but let's just say in this imaginary,
My
fictitious
husband
world.
listens to these episodes, Rebecca. I guess I won't be sending him this link.
Let's say instead, let's say you're marrying your husband again, and it's the
Oh,
16th century. Who would you want as your maid of honor or matron, I guess,
oh.
and why?
Wait, but when am I getting married in the 16th century? Is it 1501? Is it
Anytime
1599?
you can choose. I just want you to tell me who's the woman
Isabel of Castile.
you'd want her standing up next to you.
I want the Queen of Spain. Yes. Yes, please.
But why?
Because she would pay for the party. I'd be like, oh,
Number one reason.
you have to pay for the party. I'm just your humble servant, your majesty. And she'd be like, okay. And then I would call fun guy. I'd be like, done it, Dad. Come over. We need to have this party here.
Dad.
I've done it before. I've gotten married in Spain before, so it's
Yeah.
easy to answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
You just need someone to fund the fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. I think
yeah. If
I
you
think
don't have the funds, you need to find someone to fund it.
I think along the lines like who will keep everything organized and keep me on track. And I don't even know if I have an answer for this question now. I think back in the day I had an answer and now I'm like, I have no idea. Who would the person be that I would want there who would keep me sane and would get everything done that needed to get done and make sure everybody was where they needed to be? Yeah, I don't even know. Emma?
No,
Miss Emma Guilford?
No, you would get the Queen of England to do it for you.
I was thinking Catherine of Aragon.
Of course, she was the most organized person ever.
Yeah.
She coordinated when the Scots invaded, she coordinated, dealing with that, with providing all the stuff that Henry needed still in France and Wolsey, because they were like, we're over here doing some battles, and she was like, that's really cute. Just wait a second. And and she was in Baynard's castle there coordinating everything. So she was really, really skillful at organizing large scale stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because you would get married in a large scale wedding, right? You never told me who you're marrying this fictional wedding.
I don't even know. I don't. Everybody would assume.
Pick one. Pick one. You have to pick one. Now that's the final question, Rebecca. Sorry, it's your birthday. You have to answer.
I guess everybody would assume Thomas Seymour, so I'll just say Thomas Seymour. Right? He was like the most eligible bachelor at court at the time.
Oh, that's cute.
I mean,
I can't wait. I'm literally getting emotional. Am I invited?
I'll
write about it if you want.
I don't know. I don't know if our timelines really work out here. If Catherine of Aragon is my matron of honor and I'm marrying Thomas Seymour. Thomas Seymour didn't even show up in the records at Tudor court until 1530.
Then you can have Mary Tudor. She's the next best one after Catherine. She had, her privy purse expenses are. You can download those. Anyone who wants to have a look at those. She was very tidy. I'm
a little bit worried because I really don't get the impression that Mary liked Thomas very much. So
she was very good at hiding her true feelings. She'll do it for you. I'll talk to her.
I don't need any drama.
I'll talk to her. I'll talk to her.
I'll send her a
letter.
We'll
have pizza talk to her.
Where is this conversation gone?
It's your birthday. I don't even know anymore.
This is like the weirdest interview ever, but
oh, good. Sometimes you just have to do a weird episode,
Yeah. How do you title an episode like this, Emma? Can you tell me?
Plain weird. Something like that.
Plain weird. That's all.
Plain weird.
If I put this episode out and title it Plain Weird, nobody's going to listen to it.
You might be surprised. You never know. You never know.
Yeah, well, that's going to be it then. That's going to be the episode title.
You know what? Plain weird or something. I don't know really because it was plain weird.
Well, I feel like here, let me see if I can do this here. Like it's time. I'm not going to be able to hear you.
Oh, yes, it's time.
It's time now for me to end this episode, I think, and I had to put on my tiara.
Yes,
since it's my special day.
You do look very, very regal.
Thank you. I think
Yes.
maybe later when I'm golfing, I should put on a ball gown or something.
Minnesota Regal, because she's wearing a hoodie, a very cute hoodie, actually.
She's Minnesota Regal. She's wearing a hoodie. Her hair's up in a
Yes.
messy bun.
Minnesota Regal is a different type of concept that we're developing here. It's still in the marketing board, but
yeah.
I like it. I like it. It looks good.
Little do you know I'm wearing a skirt, so
Yes, yes, yes. And the tiara is just breathtaking, I must say.
you know, some of my former coworkers bought this for me last year for my birthday, and I'm pretty sure they got it at Claire's, and it's a little girl's tiara, and it barely fits on my head.
Are you asking for a proper tiara? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Should we put that on your Christmas list? If somebody has a real tiara laid around that you know they don't need for whatever reason, well, send it to me. If you have another one, send it to Rebecca, please.
Please. I need a
birthday.
I really, you know, this one's cute, but I really need a real one, I think.
We need to start a collection of tiaras. That's going to be my life goal in my 40s, is to start a tiara collection. How does that sound?
That sounds fantastic. I think I only have a few years left in my 40s now.
Well, you need to start hurrying up, girl.
Well, if you're listening again and you have some spare tiaras,
yes, anyone
who
has some tiaras laying around, please remember.
Yeah, send me a message.
The good people of the Tudor Dynasty podcast who need to start a very important collection.
Yeah, I promise I won't sell it. I'll keep it.
No, we'll keep it. We'll showcase it. We'll in our shows.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, someday you'll see it. I'll have a bookcase behind me someday here, and you'll see your fancy tiara in it. If I'm not already wearing it during the show.
Exactly.
I mean, if I have a real one, I might just wear it for every single episode, because I think
especially for golfing.
Especially.
Yeah.
So I think this will be perfect for this evening.
Well, I hope you have truly the most wonderful evening, Your Majesty.
Oh,
and
thank you.
A wonderful birthday. You deserve it. It's great fun to work with you. And so celebrating you is always a pleasure. So thank you for inviting me back in my little hiatus from being here, but I'll be back soon. I'm just working on some things, guys, but I didn't want to miss the birthday.
No, and thank you, Emma, for suggesting we do this today, because this is like the best birthday present ever. I'm so glad I got to chat with you today and get to talk about us and talk about history and other weird things.
It's just how plain weird we really are, people. You think that it's just because we do this show, but no, it's weird in real life. We're pretty much just as weird.
Clearly.
Yep.
All right, Emma, until next time.
Okay, happy birthday. Bye.
Bye. Well, that concludes another episode of the Tudors Dynasty podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you love the show and would like to show your support, please consider becoming a patron over on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Tudors Dynasty. As a patron, you'll get commercial-free episodes, early access, some patron-exclusive content, and even discounts on upcoming webinars and lectures. Head on over to Patreon today to find out more information. And for as little as $3 a month, you can show your support. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.
The Tudors Dynasty Podcast.